I would advise dog lovers to stay away from this video entirely because of the contents of a couple of screen caps, and those who've seen the film will understand why, especially for dog lovers. Anyway, I'd like to read out older IMDb reviews concerning this very fascinating, very intriguing, quite brilliant, I might even say, film from Lucio Fulci, A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, one of his more acclaimed films, and I would agree, one of his very best. From Unones, 11th of December 1998. Delirious murder mystery filled with bat attacks, drug trips, and disemboweled barking dogs. This rarely seen Fulci offering brings to mind many comparisons of Dario Argento's earlier works. A woman, Monty, dreams in slow motion of murdering her somewhat libertine neighbour, relates it all back to her therapist. Sometime later, her neighbour indeed turns up dead, and the details all match those in the dream. The police are called in, many red herrings are thrown in, and as the false resolutions arise, the police procedural turns into an unbelievably convoluted and confusing spiral. Two hippies whacked out of their minds on LSD witness the murder but make unreliable witnesses due to their state at the time. The line between reality and hallucination becomes increasingly blurred throughout the whole film as the mentally unbalanced Monty tries to reconcile her shifts in perception. The strength of the movie lies in the visuals, however. Fulci's wild camera work helps reinforce the sense of illusion throughout. Ennio Morricone's score complements the picture's strange mood perfectly. Fulci found himself in court over an unusually ugly scene of vivisected dogs during a hallucination. His SFX man Carlo Rambaldi had to bring in the animatronic models of the dogs to get him off the hook. At times it's a bit slow, but at other times Lizard in a Woman's Skin is a very wild ride indeed. Lazarillo on the 26th of October 2004 claims Fulci's best movie. Although Lucio Fulci is most famous for the atmospheric and very gory series of zombie movies he made in the late 70s and early 80s, this early 70s giallo might very well be his best film. It has all the strengths of Fulci's best work: great cinematography, brilliant editing, and a powerful sense of atmosphere. Although the decadent garish portrait he creates here of swinging London is quite distinct from the oozing sense of dread he conjures up in the rural American settings of his zombie films. Think of the Louisiana, New Orleans, I believe New Orleans specifically, setting for The Beyond, 1981, his most famous, and possibly his most famous now. I know Zombie 2 is a very famous movie, but yeah, The Beyond I think certainly is the masterpiece of them. Many people do, I believe. House by the Cemetery is good too, but The Beyond, it's that Fabio Frizzi's score is otherworldly. This movie, however, has two things his zombie films do not have. First, a script that is both genuinely suspenseful and that actually makes sense, maybe, rather than merely functioning as a means to tie various interesting scenes together. And second, Florinda Balkan. It is hard to describe how good Balkan is here, but if you've seen her in Flavia the Heretic or in the supporting role she plays in another excellent Fulci giallo, Don't Torture a Duckling, we'll get to that, you'll know what I mean. There's some decent acting in many of the later Fulci movies, but nothing like Balkan's performance in this and Duckling. And if you're the typical Fulci fan seeking a heavy dosage of blood and gore, you won't be disappointed. This movie offers a bat attack similar to the one he later did in House by the Cemetery, which is less bloody, but much more realistic as it is accomplished through clever editing rather than phony prosthetics. Then there is the scene where, if a half-dissected but still living dog which actually landed Fulci in court for animal cruelty, don't worry, it wasn't a real dog. However, when this movie comes out on legitimate DVD, that scene will be restored to its full power, and this excellent movie will be appreciated for what it truly is, Fulci's best movie. If you thought DVD looked good, try the Blu-rays later. And now I'll read out this first-rate Fulci, The_Void, 19th of March 2005. When people think of Lucio Fulci, it's always the gorier and largely incoherent affairs that spring to mind. Films like Zombie Flesh Eaters and The Beyond, which are most definitely good films if you like that sort of thing, as I certainly do. That's not even my insert, that's still The_Void. But they don't adequately portray the man's talent. If you want to see the great Fulci films, you need to go back to his giallo days, with films like Don't Torture a Duckling, and indeed this film, A Lizard in a Woman's Skin. Fulci's first giallo is a trippy thriller that excellently captures the laid-back style of the swinging 60s and blends it magnificently with the thrilling pace that has gone on to epitomize the Italian thriller. The film follows a young woman, Florinda Balkan, who dreams that she's having orgies with a hippie woman that lives downstairs. Events take a turn for the worse when the young woman dreams that she's killed the hippie, who then turns up dead, brutally murdered in her apartment in exactly the way that the woman dreamt. While this film isn't as brutal as some of the later giallo efforts, Fulci succeeds in creating a foreboding atmosphere and manages to keep his audience on the edge of their seats. The plotline is rather strange, and Fulci makes best use of this through an excellent Ennio Morricone score, which firmly instills the trippy atmosphere in the viewer's mind. The giallo has come to be synonymous with brutal murders and lots of gore, but ironically, Fulci keeps his murders down a minimum. Some of them even happen off screen. This is both a good and a bad thing, as I personally like seeing brutal murders in giallos, but on the other hand, it allows Fulci to keep the focus firmly on the central murder, and he doesn't get sidetracked with lots of blood and gore, which does the film itself lots of favours. The mystery boils down to an excellent ending, in which the film is tied up nicely, and we are treated to a great twist in some of the first-rate detective work from the detective on the case. Highly recommended viewing, and a must for giallo fans. Worth noting, Stanley Baker, the English actor, appears in this film. He's better known for pictures such as, well, I remember him from Joseph Losey's Concrete Jungle, aka The Criminal. He's extremely good in that. And I watched him dubbed in Italian with English subtitles here, so it's hard to rate his performance, but it's nice to see him. I almost had to, because I guess I glossed over his name being in the opening credits this time, and I see him here and I go, hey, that guy, Stanley Baker. Fun. Anyway. See you next time as we discuss the aforementioned Don't Torture a Duckling.